I thought my family just wasn't very active on WhatsApp until I accidentally discovered a second family group chat, one that had everyone except me. What I found in their conversations about me made me question everything I thought I knew about. The people who were supposed to love me unconditionally. My name is Ayla, and I've always been the family communicator. You know that one person in every family who sends good morning messages, shares funny memes, remembers everyone's birthdays, and tries to keep everyone connected? That was me. I was the one who created our family WhatsApp group 3 years ago. When my older brother moved to another city for college, I called it the Amazing Ahmed Family, with a bunch of heart emojis, and I was so excited to finally have a digital space where all 6 of us could stay in touch. At first, everyone seemed to love it. My parents would react to my messages with thumbs up and heart emojis. My brother would share updates about his college life. My 2 younger sisters would send pictures of their school projects and ask for help with homework. It felt like we were this close modern family who stayed connected despite our busy schedules. But slowly, things started to change in ways that were so subtle, I almost didn't notice at first. My good morning messages, which used to get responses from everyone, started getting fewer and fewer replies. When I shared something funny that happened at work, instead of the usual flood of laughing emojis and comments, I'd get maybe 1 or 2 reactions, usually just from my mom, and even those felt forced. I started paying closer attention to the group dynamics, and that's when I noticed something strange. The last seen timestamps didn't match up with the response times. I'd send a message at 2 p.m., and I could see that my sister Zara had been online at 2:15 p.m., but she wouldn't respond to my message until hours later, sometimes not at all. My brother would post something in the group, and within minutes, everyone would be commenting and reacting. But when I posted something similar, silence. At first, I thought maybe I was being paranoid. Maybe everyone was just busy. Maybe I was reading too much into it. But the pattern became impossible to ignore. Family announcements that I made, like when I got a promotion at work or when I wanted to plan a family dinner, would get minimal responses. But when anyone else made similar announcements, the group would explode with congratulations and excitement. I started changing my approach, thinking maybe my messages were too long or too frequent. I tried sending shorter messages, posting less often, only sharing really important things. Nothing worked. The invisible wall between me and my family in that chat seemed to get thicker every day. The breaking point came last month during my birthday week. I had been dropping hints in the family group about my upcoming birthday for weeks, sharing memories from previous years, talking about how excited I was to celebrate with everyone. The responses were lukewarm at best. Then, on the actual day of my birthday, I woke up to nothing. No messages in our family group. No birthday wishes. Nothing. I waited until noon, thinking maybe everyone was planning a surprise or just running late with their messages. Still nothing. By evening, I was devastated. I finally sent a message myself. Thanks everyone for the birthday wishes. Hoping it would prompt some responses and maybe make my family realize they'd forgotten. My mom quickly responded with, "Happy birthday, sweetheart!" And a few others followed with generic birthday emojis, but it felt forced, like they were responding out of guilt rather than genuine love. The whole thing felt hollow and painful. That night, I called my best friend Sama, crying about how disconnected I felt from my family. It's like they don't even want me in their lives anymore. I sobbed into the phone. Every time I try to connect with them, I just get these polite, distant responses. I feel like an outsider in my own family. Sama listened patiently and then said something that stuck with me. Ayla, families don't just naturally drift apart like this, especially when one person is trying so hard to keep everyone connected. Something else is going on here. Her words planted a seed of suspicion in my mind. What if there was something else going on? What if my family's strange behavior in our WhatsApp group wasn't about being busy or distracted? What if there was a reason they seemed so disconnected from me specifically? I started noticing other things too. When we'd have family dinners, there would be inside jokes I didn't understand, references to conversations I hadn't been part of. My sisters would start to say something and then stop mid-sentence, exchanging glances with each other. My parents would mention plans that I hadn't heard about until that moment. "When did we decide on Sunday for shopping?" I'd ask, confused. "Oh, we discussed it earlier," my mom would say vaguely, not meeting my eyes. But I didn't see any messages about it in our group. "We just mentioned it in passing," someone would say, and the conversation would quickly change. These moments started piling up, creating this growing feeling that I was somehow outside the loop of my own family's life. I began to feel like a guest in my own home, politely included, but not truly part of the inner circle. 2 weeks ago, something happened that made my suspicions impossible to ignore. I was at home sick with a terrible cold, lying in bed scrolling. Through social media, to pass the time, I saw that my sister Zara had posted an Instagram story from a family lunch at our favorite restaurant, a lunch I knew nothing about. In the background of her story, I could see my parents, my other sister Maya, and my brother all laughing and having a great time. I immediately checked our family WhatsApp group to see if I had somehow missed the invitation. Nothing. No mention of lunch plans, no "hey, we're going out to eat" message, no "wish you were here" follow-up. It was like they had all coordinated this family outing and deliberately excluded me. I felt sick to my stomach, and it wasn't from the cold. My own family had gone out together without me and hadn't even bothered to invite me or mention it afterward. When everyone came home that evening, acting normal and asking how I was feeling, I felt like I was living in some alternate reality. "How was your day?" my mom asked, bringing me soup. "Fine," I said, studying her face. "What did you all do today?" "Oh, just some errands," she said casually. "Nothing exciting." She was lying to my face. My own mother was lying to me about spending the afternoon with the rest of our family at lunch. That night, I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, trying to figure out what I had done wrong to deserve this treatment. Why was my family excluding me? Why were they lying about it? What had changed? I started thinking back over the past few months, trying to pinpoint when things had shifted. When had I become the outsider in my own family? When had our family WhatsApp group become a place where my messages were ignored and my presence felt unwanted? That's when I remembered something that made my blood run cold. About 4 months ago, I had gotten into an argument with my brother about something stupid. I can't even remember what it was about now, but I do remember that afterward, he had been really angry with me, and there had been some tension in the family for a few days. At the time, I thought we had all moved past it. Everyone seemed to go back to normal, and I assumed the awkwardness had blown over. But what if it hadn't? What if that argument had been the catalyst for something bigger? What if my family had decided that I was the problem, and instead of talking to me about it, they had just started excluding me? The more I thought about it, the more convinced I became that there was something I wasn't being told. Some decision that had been made about me. Some conversation that had happened without me. Some reason why I had become persona non grata in my own family. I needed to know the truth. I needed to understand why the people who were supposed to love me unconditionally had turned into polite strangers who included me out of obligation rather than love. But how do you investigate your own family? How do you find out what people are saying about you behind your back when those people live in the same house as you? The answer came to me in the most unexpected way. And when I discovered the truth, it shattered everything I thought I knew about my family and my place in it. The opportunity to uncover the truth came in the most ordinary way possible. Last Tuesday, I was helping my younger sister Maya with her math homework in the living room when her phone buzzed on the coffee table. She was in the kitchen getting us some snacks, and without thinking, I glanced at her screen to see if it was important. What I saw made my heart skip a beat. The notification preview showed a WhatsApp message that read, "Mom said not to mention the movie plans around Ayla." The sender's name was cut off, but I could see it was from a group chat I'd never seen before. A group chat that clearly included Maya, but not me. My hands started shaking as I stared at that notification. Movie plans? What movie plans? And why couldn't they be mentioned around me? Maya came back into the room, chatting about wanting chocolate with her homework. Completely, oblivious to the fact that my entire world had just shifted on its axis. "Your phone buzzed," I said, trying to keep my voice normal as I handed it to her. She glanced at the screen, and I watched her face change. For just a split second, she looked panicked, then quickly composed herself. "Oh, it's nothing, just school stuff." But I had seen what I had seen. There was another family group chat, one that everyone was part of except me, one where they discussed not mentioning things around me, one where I was clearly the subject of conversations I wasn't allowed to be part of. The rest of that evening passed in a blur. I helped Maya finish her homework, had dinner with my family, watched TV with them, all while feeling like I was observing strangers. Every laugh, every casual comment, every normal family interaction felt fake now. How long had they been having conversations about me behind my back? How many plans had been made that I wasn't supposed to know about? That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying that message preview over and over in my mind. Mom said not to mention the movie plans around Ayla. It wasn't just that they had made plans without me, it was that they were actively hiding those plans from me. They weren't just excluding me, they were conspiring to exclude me. The next few days were torture. I found myself analyzing every interaction with my family, looking for clues about this secret group chat and what they might be saying about me in it. When my dad came home from work and whispered something to my mom that made her nod seriously, I wondered if it was about me. When my sisters exchanged glances across the dinner table, I assumed they were thinking about whatever they'd been discussing in their secret chat. I became hyper-aware of everyone's phones. I noticed that they would sometimes smile at their screens in a way that seemed secretive. I caught my brother typing quickly and then putting his phone face down when I entered the room. My mom would sometimes laugh at something on her phone and then quickly clear her throat and put it away when she noticed me watching. The paranoia was eating me alive, but I didn't know how to address it without admitting that I'd seen Maya's notification. How do you ask your family if they have a secret group chat without you? How do you confront people about excluding you when you're not supposed to know you're being excluded? Friday evening brought the answer I'd been dreading and desperately seeking at the same time. My family announced they were all going to my aunt's house for dinner, my dad's sister, who lived about an hour away. This was unusual because we typically only visited her on special occasions, and no one had mentioned any special occasion. "Can I come?" I asked, even though I felt stupid for having to ask to be included in a family visit. There was a pause that lasted just a beat too long. My parents exchanged a look that I pretended not to notice. "Oh, sweetheart," my mom said, in a tone that was too bright, too cheerful. Aunt Sarah specifically said it was just going to be a small gathering. Maybe next time? Aunt Sarah. My Aunt Sarah, who had always made it clear that she loved having all of us kids around. The same aunt who used to complain that we didn't visit enough. She was apparently now having small gatherings that somehow included my parents and all my siblings, but not me. "Of course," I said, forcing a smile. "Have fun." After they left, I sat in our empty house feeling more alone than I had ever felt in my life. My own family was visiting my own aunt, and I wasn't invited. Or rather, I was specifically uninvited. There was no way Aunt Sarah had actually said it should be a small gathering. This was clearly part of whatever was happening in that secret group chat. I spent the evening cycling through emotions: hurt, anger, confusion, and a deep sadness that seemed to settle in my chest like a heavy weight. By the time my family came home around 10 p.m., laughing and chatting about what a great time they'd had, I had made a decision. I needed to know what was really going on, and I was going to find out. The opportunity came sooner than I expected. The next morning was Saturday, and my mom was doing her usual weekend grocery shopping. She always left her phone on the kitchen counter while she organized her shopping list, and this Saturday was no different. My heart was pounding as I approached her phone. This felt like a massive violation of privacy, but I was desperate. I had tried talking to my family, tried being the perfect daughter and sister, tried everything I could think of to understand why I was being pushed out of my own family. Nothing had worked. I needed answers. Her phone was unlocked. She never put a password on it because she said she had nothing to hide from her family. The irony wasn't lost on me as I opened her WhatsApp and started scrolling through her recent chats. And there it was, a group chat called Family Planning with 5 members: my parents, my brother, and my 2 sisters. Everyone except me. The chat picture was a photo from last Christmas, cropped specifically to exclude me from the image. With trembling fingers, I opened the chat and started reading. What I found was worse than anything I had imagined. The messages went back months. Months of conversations about me, about how to handle me, about what to do about the Isla situation. I scrolled up to the beginning, to messages from 4 months ago, right around the time I remembered having that argument with my brother. The first message was from my brother. "I think we need to talk about Ayla's behavior. She's becoming really toxic, and I'm tired of walking on eggshells around her." My mom had responded, "I've noticed it too. She's been so negative lately, and everything always has to be about her." My dad, "Maybe we need to give her some space to figure things out on her own." Maya, "She made Zara cry last week when she criticized her outfit. I'm tired of her always being mean." Zara, "I know she's our sister, but she's exhausting to be around." I stared at the messages, reading them over and over, trying to understand how my family had come to see me as this terrible person they described. When had I made Zara cry? I couldn't even remember criticizing her outfit. When had I been negative or toxic? I thought I had been the one trying to keep everyone connected and happy. But the messages continued, getting worse as I scrolled down. They talked about how to handle family events without making it obvious they were excluding me. They discussed which restaurants to go to where I wouldn't want to join them. They planned movie nights for times when I would be at work. They coordinated. Their responses to my messages in our official family group chat, deciding who would respond and how much enthusiasm to show. There was an entire conversation about my birthday. My mom had suggested they keep it low-key because Ayla always makes such a big deal about everything, and it's exhausting. My brother had agreed, saying that maybe if they didn't make a fuss, I would learn that not everything has to revolve around me. They had deliberately made my birthday anticlimactic. They had purposely withheld the enthusiasm and love I had been hoping for, not because they forgot or were busy, but because they had decided I didn't deserve it. The most recent messages were from last night, after their visit to Aunt Sarah. My mom had written, "I'm glad we didn't bring Ayla. Sarah said the house felt so much more peaceful without all the drama." My dad had replied, "Maybe we should start doing family things without her more often. It's nice to just relax and enjoy each other's company." I felt like I was going to be sick. I put the phone down and ran to the bathroom, where I barely made it to the toilet before throwing up. When I was done, I sat on the bathroom floor crying harder than I had cried since I was a child. This wasn't a misunderstanding or a phase. This was a deliberate, coordinated effort by my entire family to exclude me from their lives. They saw me as toxic, dramatic, and exhausting. They were happier without me. They were planning a future that didn't include me. The worst part wasn't even the exclusion. It was the deception. For months, they had been lying to my face, pretending to care about me, pretending to include me, all while secretly wishing I would just disappear. They had turned my desperate attempts to connect with them into evidence of how everything had to be about me. They had taken my love for my family and twisted it into something selfish and burdensome. I heard my mom's car pull into the driveway and quickly wiped my tears, ran back to the kitchen, and made sure her phone was exactly where she had left it. When she came in with her grocery bags, chatting cheerfully about running into a neighbor at the store, I felt like I was looking at a stranger. "Can you help me put these away, sweetheart?" she asked with a smile. "Of course," I replied automatically, even though every fiber of my being wanted to scream at her, to demand explanations, to ask her how she could smile at me so warmly while secretly planning to exclude me from our family's life. But I didn't say anything. I couldn't, because now I knew the truth. And the truth was that my family didn't want me around. They were just waiting for me to figure that out and leave on my own. The question now was, what was I going to do about it? The next week was the hardest week of my life. I walked around my house like a ghost, knowing terrible secrets about what My family really thought of me while pretending everything was normal. Every family dinner was torture. Every casual conversation felt like a performance. When my mom asked how my day was, I wanted to scream, "Why do you care when you think I'm toxic?" When my dad made jokes at dinner, I wondered if he was mentally counting down the minutes until he could escape to his secret family group chat. But the worst part was the self-doubt that crept in. I found myself analyzing every interaction I'd had with my family over the past few months, trying to see myself through their eyes. Was I really toxic? Was I actually dramatic and exhausting? Maybe they were right. Maybe I did make everything about me. Maybe I was the problem. I started withdrawing even more, speaking less at dinner, staying in my room longer, trying to make myself smaller and less burdensome. But even that backfired. On Wednesday evening, I overheard my sister Maya telling Zara, "Ayla's being weird and sulky again. She's probably planning some dramatic outburst." They had created this impossible situation where everything I did was wrong. If I tried to connect with them, I was being attention-seeking. If I withdrew, I was being dramatic and sulky. There was no version of me that would ever be acceptable to them again. By Friday, I had made a decision. I couldn't live like this anymore, pretending to be part of a family that secretly resented my existence. I needed to confront them, but I also needed to be smart about it. I couldn't let them know I had read their private messages, but I could create a situation that would force them to be honest with me. Saturday morning, I came downstairs to find my family in the kitchen, whispering among themselves. The conversation stopped abruptly when they saw me, and they all suddenly became very interested in their breakfast. "Good morning," I said, pouring myself coffee and sitting at the table. "Morning, sweetie," my mom replied, but her tone was strained. I took a deep breath. "I want to talk to everyone about something." The atmosphere in the room immediately became tense. My dad put down his newspaper, my siblings stopped eating, and my mom turned to face me with an expression I couldn't quite read. "I've been feeling really disconnected from this family lately," I began, my voice shaking slightly. "I feel like there's distance between us that wasn't there before, and I don't understand why. If I've done something wrong, I need you to tell me so I can fix it." The silence that followed was deafening. My family exchanged glances, those same meaningful looks I'd been noticing for months. Finally, my brother cleared his throat. "Ayla, I think maybe you're being a little sensitive. Everything's fine." "No, it's not fine," I said, my voice getting stronger. "You all went to Aunt Sarah's without me. You make plans I don't know about. When I send messages in our family group chat, barely anyone responds anymore. Something has changed, and I need to know what it is." My mom sighed deeply, and I could see her wrestling with something internally. "Ayla, honey, sometimes families go through phases where people need space. Space from me specifically," I interrupted. "Because that's what this feels like. It feels like you all decided you don't want me around anymore, and instead of talking to me about it, you're just hoping I'll get the hint and disappear." The whoop, guilty expressions on their faces told me everything I needed to know. My heart sank as I realized my worst fears were being confirmed right in front of me. My dad finally spoke up, his voice gentle but firm. "Ayla, we love you, but lately, it feels like you've been... I don't know how to say this without hurting your feelings." "Just say it," I whispered. "Please. I need to hear the truth." "You've been really negative," Maya said suddenly, as if the words had been building up pressure inside her. "Everything is always a problem with you. You complain about everything. You make everything about yourself, and it's exhausting to be around." "When?" I asked, my voice breaking. "When did I do these things? Give me examples." They couldn't. They looked at each other helplessly, unable to provide specific instances of this terrible behavior they all apparently agreed I was guilty of. "It's not about specific moments," my mom said finally. "It's about an overall energy. You've become very demanding of attention, very critical of everyone else, very dramatic about small things." I stared at her in disbelief. "Demanding of attention? I've been trying to hold this family together. I created our group chat because I wanted us to stay close. I remember everyone's birthdays. I try to plan family activities. I check on everyone when they're having problems. How is that demanding attention? See? Zara said, gesturing at me. This is what we mean. You're getting all worked up and making this into a huge drama. I'm getting worked up because my family just told me I'm toxic and they don't want to be around me. I stood up from the table, my hands shaking. How am I supposed to react to that? How would any of you react if you found out your family secretly thought you were a burden? My brother looked uncomfortable. We never said you were a burden. You didn't have to say it, I replied quietly. You've been showing it for months. The room fell silent again. I could see the guilt and discomfort on their faces, but also something else. Relief. Relief that this conversation was finally happening, that they didn't have to pretend anymore. So what happens now? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Do I just leave? Is that what you want? Don't be dramatic, Ayla, my mom said automatically, then caught herself. I mean, no one wants you to leave. We just want you to maybe think about how your behavior affects other people. But I could see the truth in their eyes. They did want me to leave, or at least to become someone completely different. They wanted me to stop being myself, stop caring so much, stop trying. So hard to be part of a family that no longer wanted me. That evening, I made phone calls to 3 of my friends who had roommates with extra space. By Sunday morning, I had found a place to stay temporarily. I spent the day quietly packing my essential belongings, and when my family asked what I was doing, I told them I was moving out for a while to give everyone the space they seemed to need. You don't have to do that, my mom said. But there was no real protest in her voice. Yes, I do, I replied. You all made it very clear that you're happier when I'm not around, so I'm going to give you what you want. I moved out that evening. My friend Sama helped me carry my boxes to her apartment, where she had cleared out space in her spare room for me. As we drove away from my family's house, I felt a strange mix of devastation and relief. The devastating part was obvious. I was leaving behind the people I loved most in the world because they had decided I was too difficult to love back. But the relief was unexpected. For the first time in months, I didn't have to pretend. I didn't have to try to be smaller, quieter, less myself in order to be acceptable. I didn't have to analyze every word I said for signs that I was being too much. Over the next few weeks, I began to see my family's behavior more clearly. I realized that I had been blamed for problems that weren't really my fault. Yes, I had probably been a little needier than usual after that argument with my brother, but that was because I sensed the growing distance and was trying desperately to bridge it. My attempts to connect had been seen as attention-seeking because they had already decided I was the problem. I also realized that I hadn't actually changed as much as they claimed. I was still the same person who had created that family group, chat out of love, who remembered birthdays and tried to plan activities together. The difference was that they had stopped seeing those actions as loving and started seeing them as annoying. My family reached out a few times in those first weeks. My mom called to check if I was okay. My siblings sent occasional messages asking when I was coming home. But there was no real acknowledgement of what had happened. No apology for the months of secret conversations and deliberate exclusion. No recognition that their treatment of me had been unfair. 3 months later, I'm still living with Sama. And honestly, I'm happier than I've been in a long time. I've reconnected with old friends who actually enjoy my company. I've joined a book club where my enthusiasm for discussing stories is welcomed, rather than seen as making everything about me. I've remembered what it feels like to be around people who genuinely like having me around. My family still messages me sometimes, usually when they need something or when guilt gets the better of them. They've never acknowledged that secret group chat, never apologized for the coordinated exclusion, never admitted that their treatment of me was wrong. They still see me as the dramatic sister who overreacted and moved out, instead of just working on herself. But I've learned something important through all of this. Family isn't just about blood relations or shared DNA. family is about people who see you, love you, and want you around. Even when you're going through difficult times, even when you're not perfect, even when you need a little extra support. The people I live with now, the friends who welcomed me when I had nowhere else to go, the coworkers who actually laugh at my jokes and remember details about my life, these people have become my chosen family. They've shown me what it looks like when people genuinely care about you, when they want to include you rather than exclude you, when they see your flaws as part of who you are rather than reasons to push you away. I still love my birth family, and probably always will, but I've stopped trying to earn their love back because I've realized that love shouldn't have to be earned. It should be given freely, especially within families. The hardest lesson I've learned is that sometimes the people who are supposed to love you unconditionally will decide that their love has conditions after all. And when that happens, the healthiest thing you can do is find people who will love you exactly as you are. I don't know if my family will ever understand what they did to me, or if they'll ever be willing to acknowledge the pain they caused. But I know that I deserve better than secret group chats and coordinated exclusion. I deserve better than being made to feel like a burden in my own home. And for the first time in months, I'm surrounded by people who not only agree with that sentiment, but actively prove it to me every single day. Sometimes the family WhatsApp group goes silent, not because people are busy, but because they've found other places to have the conversations they don't want you to hear. And sometimes, discovering that truth is the push you need to find the people who actually want to hear what you have to say.